I have Kevin DeMars with Vectors of Resonant Prescients with us here today. Thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you are in a number of bands, or have been in a number of bands throughout your time in Milwaukee as a musician here. But I guess within the last 2 years, you started releasing music under a solo project, or under a solo project by the name of Vectors of Resonant Prescients.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously you, from what I understand, is you just kind of started working on these songs yourself and kind of putting them together as demos, potentially for, I guess, originally for use in your band Foreign Lawns back in, I want to say 2015-ish, 2014.
We had a lot of members kind of move and then had people fill in or old people come back. It was just like a lull for a while. So I would just go down to the practice space and bring my computer and record all the ideas that I had in hopes we could work on them. And eventually I showed them to Marty and was like, why don't you just come over here and record some of them? So just did it for fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
so when you got together with Marty, were the songs pretty much fully fleshed out when you sat down with Marty and we're working through everything?
Yeah, I mean, I'd already recorded demos of them. So I sent him the stems of what I did, and I kind of just played along to them. But a lot of them were really sloppy, so it was kind of like trying to like anticipate where parts that had already made mistakes were, and try to overcompensate where there was maybe like tempo issues, and some of them are still pretty much there, but it's the best I could do, kind of.
Okay. And it sounds like Marty DeFott of Triple I Industries and Gorilla Ghost, and you were in a band with him in Volunteer.
Stock Options too.
Stock Options, yeah, and Stock Options. He kind of, I guess, coaxed you or inspired, was kind of the catalyst for taking the demos that you would put it and putting them further. Was that recording process really eye-opening for you, or really helpful from a standpoint of
something I always wanted to do, but the thing that I was worried about was not knowing what to do with it afterwards, which is why.
Okay.
Because I don't still with Suit Mode, I'm starting to learn how to sing a little bit, but not really anything I'm interested in doing like full on at all. So to have like the whole album done, it was like, well, that's done. Now what do I do? So just kind of fished around for people. And initially I was going to try to do like one person for each song. And then the idea of having that many people go to his house was just kind of expensive and seemed kind of difficult to just rein everybody in. And then I just kind of tried on my own for a while, but gave up on that too.
Okay. So ultimately, so you record, you recorded these all in 2015, and then slowly as time went on, you were working on vocals or working on lyrics, and it sounds like then you had a computer crash and you lost all the lyrics you had been working on.
I had pages of things, but it was like I didn't have a computer for a while after that, and then like let's see here, the timeline is kind of confusing, like not really confusing, but I had joined his band at the time, and I'd already started a new band before that with some friends, and then joined another band, and there was just, I can't remember when the computer died, but it was in the midst of all that, and it was just kind of like no time either way. And then I think maybe 3 to 4 years ago, I'd passed it along to somebody else to work on, and just told them to take their time. And then just recently, the reason I put it out was because like the previous week they'd kind of given it back to me and decided like it's probably never going to get done. So.
Oh, okay. So it just kind of ended up sitting, and then you got, kind of finally came to the conclusion that, they weren't going to, the vocals weren't going to happen, and decided to.
Yeah, I mean, there was, for a brief moment, I mean, within a week span, like they'd contacted me, like, this year's been rough. They even got together one time during the pandemic, which surprised me, like as far as safety and everything, like singing. And they tried it like once or twice, but like, as the years gone on, like progressively things are just not improving for anybody. So there's just no time for stuff like that.
Right.
They just didn't want to hold on to it forever and felt bad about it. So
Okay. Well, and yeah, and that happened. So you had
within that week, I thought about going back to the drawing board now that I've got plenty of recording stuff to try myself, but it was just like one more thing to add to the list of things I had on the back burner kind of. And it really took like listening to it once or twice, like it's done, forget it.
okay. And you decided to let it see the light of day on your Bandcamp page.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if I should do that either because the name of this project was like specifically just going to be quiet guitar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was, since that had sat around for so long, it's like, well, I did all this stuff myself and nobody else will really care either way. So why not?
Okay. So yeah. So, when I listen to the tracks on this, it's really, I find it kind of interesting because the way the tracks are recorded and written, or the way they're presented on, I guess we should back up for a second here. So the new album, or your new album, is titled Invisible Topography. It's available at Vectors of Resonant Prescients, with a dash between all those words, .bandcamp.com. When listening to the album, the way it's recorded and presented here, the songs sound really good as instrumentals. They're not, I don't feel like they're necessarily missing much or anything by not having vocals in them.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that for a long time. And I think a lot of it was Marty pushing me to try to sing. He's like, it's almost done. Like, you're the final part of your own thing. Like, and I just didn't think it out fully enough to really know either way.
Okay. And
sorry.
Oh, you had, yeah. And so I guess, thinking about it, you had written these songs, kind of for the Foreign Lawns, for a band. But yeah, I guess, you could probably layer in vocals, but at the same time, like there's no, I don't want to say there's no space, but like, it doesn't seem like the songs were necessarily ultimately written specifically to have a vocalist sit in them. I mean, they work really well, potentially both ways.
Well, I think that was the thing too with that band, the singer Dan, who actually might go back and sing on a couple of these and release them separately as short ones.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back, it was a little bit less than half the songs when I thought more on it. But it was just like, could you kind of scale back and leave some more room? Like, oh, I'm sorry, like I'll keep that in mind. But he was just like, just power chords, man, just keep it straight. Right. I'll take care of the rest. I had come into that band from having done stock options that was instrumental, so it's kind of in my brain to write that way, I guess.
Yeah, and to kind of fill up space with the instruments more than maybe just leaving space.
Try not to go too far with it, but just make sure your part is done and know that there's something there at least. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and so you had mentioned the project Vectors of Resonant Prescients was you originally did that as quiet guitar music. So you have another, your first album up on your Bandcamp site, Cold Comfort, is almost an entirely acoustic album.
Yeah. It's just a handful of years ago, a lot of years ago, I guess, but I bought a parlor-sized acoustic guitar. I guess it would have been the second one I had, but passed along the first one, and then this new one was nicer and new, and it has a pickup too. And I thought I would like it in theory, but just ended up lending it to a bunch of friends whenever they needed a guitar. And I didn't even have it on me for probably 3 years or so. And finally got it back and realized like what I didn't like about it is I never brought it in to get set up. And then once I did, I realized like this probably sounds better to play with fingers, but I don't know how to do that. So I kind of slowly taught myself how to finger pick, and then figured, if I'm already playing in other bands, like if I'm going to do a side thing, it all would be totally different, and rely on just the one instrument at that.
So that is kind of a project to put your creative energy in that doesn't fit the kind of louder bands that you're in.
Yeah, that, and just like just I spend more time like playing that kind of stuff on the couch in the winter.
Okay.
So it's like from what I noticed from that first EP on there, like this cycle was kind of like right in the winter and spring, and then not touch it forever.
Okay.
When it gets colder again, start to recover. This year's been like with like dragging all this equipment here. For one, I don't really know how to use it very well, and for two, I've had plenty of opportunity to do it at home, but it's the room that I used to do all my music stuff in is my office now. So when I'm done with work, I don't really feel like being in there any longer.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. I think something that a lot of us are experiencing.
Yeah, and I thought that would
parts of our house.
Taking this time up here, but what I realized more than anything else is that I just needed a vacation, not to do anything. So I'm trying to just embrace, like, if I want to take a nap, just do that. If I leave here with nothing, I'm fine with it. Aside from the fact
So
I moved all this stuff here in the cold.
right. So you're currently working on recording, I guess, more material right now.
Theoretically.
Or just taking an active break and kind of working in the creative side of it. So is all of this basically just a creative outlet for you? Would there ever, like, you're playing all the parts on this, but would you ever, potentially turn this into a band or turn these ideas, cut them loose?
Probably nothing with the album the old one that I just put out, probably not that so much as it had been sitting around, but I did play one show actually the week before the pandemic at Revolution Cycles in Madison with some old friends, like just opening a show with an acoustic set. And I was hoping to do that more, and I've got a lot of songs, but it's really uncomfortable for me to get up by myself like that. So it would take a lot of work.
Okay.
But eventually, it's just something that I could maybe do a show or two a year, maybe. Because I've got another band that I play drums in too. So this is really just when I have some spare time.
Okay.
That in suit mode.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Kevin's solo project is titled Vectors of Resonant Prescients. You can find it at vectors-of-resonant-prescients.bandcamp.com. Anywhere else that we can keep track of what you've got going on?
Nope. Thank you for reaching out. Like I probably would just put it on the internet and let it go.
Okay.
I think
all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd eventually like to play an acoustic show here and there, but
okay.
Other than that, maybe Dan from Foreign Lawns will record vocals for some of the songs on the other album. It'll be a different version of the same thing.
Oh, okay. So no bringing in other, like a group of musicians to kind of flush out the rest of the parts.
Yeah, I've already got two bands. There's no point.
All right.
Yeah. Even if anybody's listening and they want to put vocals on that one, go ahead too, I guess.
Okay.
But I really want to thank Tony Schwader and Rachel Thompson who are going to sing on it, because I still think they would have sounded great if the time allowed it,
Right. Well, and you never know, maybe, we come out of this and there'll be time to kind of go back and, that's kind of one of the things, I think with this, the songs definitely stand on their own as instrumentals, and, maybe add, if you add vocals to them and have a different version of them,
the music would still, it would be cool to have like somebody else's take on it.
Right. Exactly. And give it a different flavor.
I'll have my own vocals on it.
All right, so we're going to hear a couple more tunes from Kevin's project Vectors of Resonant Prescients. The new album is titled Invisible Topography. Thanks for joining us today, Kevin.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Nice talking to you.